today I kind of had an idea, and I'm wondering if you want to roll with me on this. Basically, I want to do the 5 most disappointing teams so far in the NFL. And it's not just because these teams in particular are disappointing. I think the season's been disappointing in general. And we did a video, I think it was like week 4, kind of about how like the product was trash so far.
It has been.
It hasn't gotten a lot better, and I think what's kind of dope, there's an old saying in football, it's like take what the defense gives you, and I feel like this season has just given us kind of crap football for the most part, not across the board, but a lot of it. So I think instead of trying to do, a video about one team, about one situation, I just kind of wanted to lean in, like, you feel me? Like, let's just do a video talking about kind of where we, like, what these 5 teams are for us. We'll go back and forth. We'll each do a couple, and that's kind of where I am with it. Like, does that land for you?
I'm with it. I think you're spot on. I think it's been a goofy year, to say the least. And I mean, we were just looking at I was just saying to you, the 10th, the team who ends up with the 10th pick. Like, if the season ended today, the 10th pick would have a 3-6 record gets you the 10th pick this year. That's how many bad teams there are. 3-6 is like,
it's crazy.
That's, you know what I mean? That's like last year's first pick.
Yes.
I think the Panthers won 2 games. You know what I mean? Like, I'm pretty sure that the Commanders and the Patriots won 3 games each. So
yeah,
I mean, that would land you a top 3 pick in most other years. But for whatever reason, this year, I mean, you have like 2-8, 2-8, 2-7, 2-7, 2-7, 3-7, 3-7, 3-7, 3-7, 3-6, 3-6, 4. I mean, dude, a team. Let's take Tampa Bay for example. They're 4-6. They would have the 14th pick.
That's crazy.
The Cardinals got the 4th pick last year, and obviously this will change, right? But it does feel like the first. I would say, just looking at this list, the first 11 teams are garbage. Like, I don't see their season changing around too much.
Well, yeah, and I'm so with you. I think every year we've had like this collection of bad teams, like this bottom pool of bad teams. I think what's weird about this year, and it's why I wanted to make this video and why I wanted to do a 5 and top 5. Like, it's so cliche with the list, but like, it's fun, right? Like, we'll timestamp it. You can just pick whatever like rant you want to hear us talk about, but we're going to do 5 teams. And I think why I wanted to do most disappointing teams as opposed to like the 5 worst teams is because doesn't this year feel interesting in the sense that, like, when you go through this list, and I know you're looking at, whatever it is, Tankathon right now with like the list, like the draft. Is that what it is? Yeah.
Yeah, literally.
It's riddled with teams that you're like, I guess I just didn't see the forest through the trees here. And some of these we got right, and some of these we got wrong. And we'll own as we go through this list of like, okay, where we were right, where we were wrong. But I think where we were wrong in totality was like our preseason breakdowns. We were generous for these teams. Like, a lot of these teams, we were like borderline playoff team, like 8-9, 9-8, 7-10. Like, you look at this, when we go through this list, we'll talk about it. And I don't know if you have our win totals pulled up, but you should pull those up because we did a preseason win total prediction.
I definitely have them.
We are not going to meet a lot of the numbers that we had for these teams. Like, these teams that we're going to name right now are not winning 9-10 games. Like, it's not happening. 8 games. It's not happening. And I think that's where it's a little bit unique, because when was the last time like this many teams busted? Like, just straight blew.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at last year. So you had, the Panthers were 2-15, Cardinals 4-13, Patriots 4-13, Commanders 4-13, Chargers 5-12. But, excuse me, you hit the Giants, and it's kind of uphill from there, right? Like, Giants won 6 games, Titans won 6 games, Falcons 7, Bears 7, Vikings 7, Jets 7, Broncos 8. I mean, you got 10 teams that are on pace for like 5 wins right now.
Yeah. Well, and the Colts were
Like,
what, 9-8 last year, and like borderline playoff team, and they picked like kind of early in the
Yes.
draft this
Yes.
past year. Yeah, and I
Yes.
think we saw that, and we were like, okay, a lot of the teams that you just named, we thought made some changes this offseason that we liked. So let's give them a win or two. And that's where we just, frankly, like, for lack of a better word, just fucked up. Like, these these guys, a lot of these teams regressed tremendously. So yeah, man, it's interesting. I kind of want to start with number 5, if I may be so bold, because again, this is not the 5 worst teams. Obviously, like the Panthers and the Giants are going to be in there.
It's the 5 most disappointing teams.
Disappointing teams based on expectation, and this is our expectation, because a big thing of this show has been like we've made a clear distinction between like conventional narrative and kind of like what we think. We had our own preseason ideas and our own breakdowns, but I want to start with a team that I think you were a little closer on than I was. And we both were like non-believers of this team, but I think I was like, I feel like they're a coin flip 7th, 6th seed wild card team, and you were very much like they're not making the playoffs. I think you're going to be right. I'm putting this team at 5. Ironically, they're coming off a win last night, a good win, surprisingly. But it's the Miami Dolphins at 5. I think the case here is pretty obvious. This team's been horrible, like every step of the way. And I want to get this out of the way. I want to address the elephant in the room here. It's not just because Tua missed games. It's not. This team has not been great with Tua offensively. Really, their only wins so far this year are coming off of a squeaker with the Patriots midway through the year, and they won week 1 with Tua against Jacksonville, who, spoiler, is also on this list, I think. You know what I'm saying? On a fluke Travis Etienne fumble that led to a drive, and you know what I'm saying? Like, they got blown out by Buffalo. This team has been bad across the board. I think they're going to get better, so they may finish this year with somewhat of a 7-8 win situation. But right now, I mean, as it stands, which is crazy to say this, they are actually second in the AFC East at 3-6 right now. That's how bad of a year it's been across the board. But 3-6,
that's terrible.
It's just not what we had in mind for the Miami Dolphins this year. I will say this. I think the front office's failure to solidify a backup quarterback option is a huge part of this. I think we all knew going into this year that Tua had a major concussion issue. They had no answer once he went down. It was as predictable as the sun coming up tomorrow that he was going to get banged up this year. So that is why I think they are where they are. But it's not just that. Where are you on this team right now? And like, what to you has been like the biggest standout of fuckery, so to speak, with this team?
Exactly what I said preseason. They didn't pay the offensive lineman to stay in Miami, so Tua gets banged up week 2. You know what I mean? Like we didn't even get past 2 weeks before he's concussed, and I think he's a terrible decision maker when it comes to his own like safety. Like what was that last night? He threw the pick. He goes
Crazy.
to like tackle the guy with his head. It's like, dude, you got to stop putting yourself in harm's way. You were this franchise's like cornerstone. They were. If anything, this injury has been an indictment on how maybe underrated we view him as a NFL fans. Like we had talked about it before of, Tua's incredibly overrated in my personal opinion, but maybe I'm disrespecting him a little bit because that team was not even like, they weren't even competitive without him. And I don't think he's a world beater, but my God, it was night and day. I mean, they beat the Rams. The Rams are a good team. Their record might not show it, but the Rams are a good team.
Yes, and what's interesting is, oddly, we talked about this going into the year. The defense is kind of held up their end of the bargain, which in a weird turn of events, it's like we think of this Miami team as this like offensive juggernaut because last year they were the most exciting offense in football, period. Like full stop.
Yeah.
Don't give me anybody else. It was them. They were must-see TV. And the offense has been horrible this year, but like even last night, like Calais Campbell had a tip ball that led to an
Yeah.
interception. I know Kendall Fuller got hurt last night, but he's been good. Um, the defensive back they brought in from Washington, Ramsey's played well. Like Ramsey was
Ramsey's
making
played very
tackles
well.
all night. He had a
Yeah.
couple of huge third down tackles on Kyron. This defense has been fine. It's weird. It's like Mike McDaniel. It's almost like the Monstars stole Mike McDaniel's coaching talent offensively this year. And again, I think you're totally right with the Tua thing. I guess the only caveat I have for that is like, I don't even think the games that Tua has played, they have looked like something where I'm going, okay, it was just a Tua injury. And I think ultimately, I don't know, man. Like I guess my thing is like Tyreek looks checked out this year. It seems like the stuff that he's been dealing with off the field has finally caught up with him. He got the bag. It seems like he's checked out. Tua's been banged up. Obviously, that's serious. But the offensive line hasn't protected well, like you said. I mean, losing Hunt and their center, what's his name? I think were huge losses. The guards.
Connor Williams, I believe is his name.
Connor Williams, yeah, really good player. And again, like, I think as hot of a take as this might be for some people, I need to say this because it's starting to really get under my skin. Another guy who got the bag this offseason, can we stop with the Jalen Waddle being an elite wide receiver? Hey, what's he done? What's he done? I mean, he's not a bad player, but what has he done? I mean, it's like, so it's an interesting thing. All these things have kind of come together, and it's going to be an interesting thing to see what they do moving forward, coaching-wise, personnel-wise, because you're kind of stuck. You paid these two receivers, and you paid your quarterback, so you kind of got to build around that. And watching those three components this year, I'm not sure that you have a winning formula. And I'm not sure if this head coach is a head coach. So It's like, I don't know. I think there's some major red flags in Miami.
I completely agree. Yeah, they're a dumpster fire. I mean, I don't know. They just are. It sucks. It sucks. Achan's been quiet. Moster's been quiet. Tyreek and Jalen Waddle have been terrible. You know, Tua was out, but even the last 2 weeks with Tua back, like they haven't done dick really. You know what I mean? No. Like they're not the offense that we were expecting this year. They're not even a shell of the offense they were last year. They're like a bad offense. And I frankly I think I understand. Maybe I'm being harsh, but I think Mike McDaniel Mike McDaniel, right? I always get those two confused. Mike McDaniel, that's the coach, right? Yeah,
he
should lose his job, in my opinion. I think this is a completely fireable offense. I understand you lost your quarterback, and that might be, I could see people coming to the comments or even just hearing this and being like, I mean, his quarterback died, right? It's like, yeah, but your job as a head coach is to stay afloat during those times of what's the word, like
crisis.
Yeah, there you go, perfect. Yeah. And that's like where I'm kind of like frustrated when it comes to him, because I think, man, you knew that you had this quarterback who was completely and utterly injury prone. There's some good options out there, check Ryan Tannehill, check Jameis Winston, check Jimmy G, check Marcus
Justin
Mariota,
Fields.
check like Justin, exactly. Justin Fields would be amazing in this system.
Yep. Russell Wilson. I mean,
100%. It was just
Gardner Minshew.
It's just one of those things, man, that just is really frustrating. Like that's just something like you can't overlook that when your quarterback is so. I mean, we know we said it in our preseason video, and a lot of people pushed back on us, but we kind of were proven right. Tua is one hit away from being medically retired. I mean, you had Shannon Sharp going on ESPN the next morning going, I think Tua needs to hang it up.
A lot of people said that, and we both said that wasn't going to happen because it's just
no.
But he seems a little. Even he seems like almost he's got CTE. Like he just seems loopy to me.
Yeah,
I watch him
he seems very loopy.
Something's up with that, and it's you feel for the guy, you feel for the fans, but it is an interesting place to be now with this team. It's just been a huge disappointment this year. Massive disappointment for a team that neither of us considered a contender, but nonetheless.